Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talk About It Tuesday. I'm Tosca Di Matteo, founder of Tosca Coaching and Consulting, and I'm thrilled to bring to you probably the last Talk About It Tuesday for the year with my dear friend and inspiring woman, Shigei Gebremedhin. And we are going to talk about community today, which I think feels so appropriate for this time of year, for sure. Um, so she's going to come on and share a little bit about herself, but she's a mountaineer, a world traveler, a yogi, a corporate executive, and so much more. She's lived in a number of different cities in her life and currently resides in London, which is sad for me because we're like besties here, and we're thousands of miles away. But alas, we talk all the time, which I'm so grateful for. And actually, we met at Michigan State while getting our MBAs. So here she is. I'm going to bring her on now, and we'll get this started. Yeah, talking about community, welcoming Shigei. Hello, Shigei.
Hello. Oh, I
How
feel like
are you today?
I've got a halo happening.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, you are angelic in my mind, so rock the halo.
So, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm watching myself in the reflection, and I wear workout clothes all day to inspire me to work out. And tell me, have I worked out today? Not yet, but I'm
Well,
good.
the
Good.
day,
Excited for this conversation.
me too. And I know the day is young. It's young here. It's still young there. It's not too late in London. I was just introducing you just a little bit, talking about how you live in London right now, world traveler, yogi, mountaineer, one of my very best friends, and I'm just honored and thrilled that what I think is like my last Talk About It Tuesday of the year is with you, talking about a really important topic, community. So before we dive in, I just want to hand it over to you, Shige, to share like what you want about who you are, like why are you here, talking about community, why is it important and a really big value of yours. Yeah, just like take it away.
Okay, yes. I'm Shigei. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on where you are. And yeah, I think community is very important. And when you and I talked about this a few days ago, I was thinking to myself, like, what is community? And for me, I feel like um, it's a village. It's your social support group, and it's basically a web of people that reflect who you are and where you are and what you believe in. And I think for me, that's just as I evolve, that's evolved. That community has evolved for me. So it's just really important to me. And I think the day that it truly sparked, I think the idea of having this conversation with you was when I was in the Scottish Highlands. Do you remember?
Yeah. Remind me though that the viewers want to hear the story.
Yeah. So I spent can you hear me okay, by the way?
I can, yeah.
All right, perfect. I spent 6 days in the Scottish Highlands, which is um, northwest of Scotland. And so I hiked the West Highland Way, is what it was called, West Highland Way. And it was 96 miles of just incredible Scottish scenery. And
Yeah, for those of you who watch Outlander, basically she was like where Outlander is filmed and based, which is like stunning. Okay, so and you still have to watch that,
I
right?
haven't watched it yet. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. But
No,
yeah,
no,
beautiful
good.
country.
Yes, it was majestic. The scenery is amazing. But I wasn't enjoying it. I was not enjoying it. And what was it, Tosca? It was day three. It was day three. I had like a tear soaked pillow. And I called you. And I was just like, what am I doing here? I have nothing to prove. and I think I was just sad because I thought I had lost my sense of adventure, you know, and I just felt like I just wasn't enjoying it. I didn't understand why. And I remember telling you, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm worried I lost my spark, my energy, the adventurous girl inside of me. And I think, you know, for you, you just brought it back to home base for me. And you would ask me, what is your intention? Like, what was the reason why you decided to be out here? And I was like, what do you mean? You know, it's the forest, it's the nature. But I mean, I was getting bit by midges like left and right. I was soaked to the bone every day. It was just raining every day, and I felt lonely too. And so there was like the human side, the human element that was missing. And I remember walking, and you know, I'd see people coming towards me, and I'd like look away, you know, because I was like, let them do their thing. I don't want to distract them. And some people would pass me, and I'd just like let them pass, not say hello. And yeah, I just felt like they probably wanted their own sort of journey, and I didn't want to, you know, distract them. And so I remember on day 3, I said to myself, I'm going to give it one more shot, you know, and I'm going to I'm going to bring my true self to these doggone mountains. And that means the gregarious, talkative, talk to strangers, Shigei. And so I started like looking up versus like staring down at the stones and rocks and saying, you know, hello. Or they say like, hiya, good morning, hiya, good morning. And I just tailored that hike so that it fit me. And I think people that saw that and that resonated with them, they said hi back, hello, how are you? Good day. And then from day 4 onwards, I remember it was a collection of people. I met one person, we just started walking together, another person that I said hello to on the trail, and they joined in. And by the end of it, we had a couple from the States. We had a woman and her dog. We had a father and son. And then we had a guy from Spain who lived in London. And we all finished together. And it made the experience for me because I got to share it with others, you know? So, yeah, it just totally turned the experience around for me to just surround myself with like-minded people that love nature. And we were all drenched in rain, you know, you know, completely fatigued. Our muscles were sore, and we did it together. So to me, I think, and that's what basically was the genesis or the impetus or what triggered this conversation. It was just like community is, and not just that time, right? I think you and I over the years have talked about the importance of community, but that is what sparked the idea of like, let's have this chat. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much richness in that story. Like part of what I heard was like even like you denying yourself community on that trail.
Yeah.
Like it sounded like A, making some assumptions and also B, like almost hiding yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think it makes me think of this, you know, there's a lot of talk, right, about the importance of being able to sit with yourself and be with yourself, right? And there's a lot of people that never give themselves that opportunity, whether they go from, you know, boyfriend or girlfriend to the next, or whether they constantly distract themselves from being with themselves. Like that in and of itself is an epidemic. But what I was hearing with you, and I know you've done a lot of travel on your own, like you certainly know how to sit with yourself. So I'm curious, right? There sounds like there's like a balance, right, between knowing like, hey, what you actually needed in that moment was not to be walking by yourself, but to actually experience some community.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious, yeah, like was it like, oh yeah, I need connection and why am I like, was it very overt that you realized it, or was it more subtle? Or were you experimenting with just, I'm just going to be myself and see what happens? Like
That
what
is
was that
it.
like?
Bingo.
Mm,
Just being myself. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. And it is a big critical part of who I am, you know,
mm,
connection. So
mm,
yeah. So yeah, I don't even think that in the middle of the night when I called you, I don't think don't think I said to you, I need community right now. I don't think that was top of mind. It just was like, all right, I'm just not going to see this as something that I need to check off the list, that I need to, hike 96 miles. And it wasn't about that anymore. It was about my intention of why I was there, so you reminded me of that.
Mm.
But,
Yeah, I remember, right, because you went to like a travel agency person and they kind of created the path for you. And it felt like, yeah, while you were on that journey, you were like, oh crap, I need to create my own path right now. Like this, you know,
literally.
yeah, like, and
Yeah.
I think it was also like, right, being unattached to what it means to stray from this thing that somebody else gave you, that somebody else said that you needed to do.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree. And I mean, yeah. I mean, that evolves over time, right? All these learnings, um, and figuring out what works for you. I mean, it is an evolution. I think when I change, I think people change. And I'm not saying you completely change 180, but I think some people, um, yeah, you just learn what works and what doesn't. I think everything is just a constant change. But yeah, I mean, as an example, let me tell you about growing up, right? In upstate New York. We're both from upstate New York, Rochester, you, Ithaca,
Yeah.
me. So my parents are immigrants from Eritrea and Ethiopia, and they made their way to the States in the 70s, right? And so they had two kids, they lived the American dream. And I feel like for them, they really taught me the importance of community. For them, it was more of, I mean, it was a very homogenous kind of town. So there weren't very many, East Africans, but the ones that they met along the way, they invited over. I mean, they didn't really know them very well, but they just invited them over, right? And they became family. They were all uncles and aunts. And so for me, I noticed how, because they shared the same culture, they shared the same language, the same food, so they had that sort of connection. So I saw that and the importance of it. Maybe when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate it. I was just like, oh my gosh, our home feels like a revolving door, like, or an Airbnb, I'd call it an Airbnb, because some people would stay, especially people that visited not from Ithaca, but like DC and the surrounding areas, or maybe even from Ethiopia or Eritrea. They wouldn't stay for a weekend. It was like a month or two, and I'm like, oh, like I want to share the bathroom with Uncle so-and-so. And how are all these people? I remember when I was younger, I said, we have such a big family. How do we have so many uncles and aunts, But yeah, it was just, it's basically an extension of them. They brought home to them in a way, And I do recall when I was a teenager, I felt like I had one foot with them, like one foot in, with the spices and the language and, everything my parents were raised in. And then I had one foot in the American country, you know what I mean? Like literally. And I wanted, and it just wasn't enough. And so I remember wanting to leave upstate New York because it felt like a bubble. I wanted to, what is my community? Because when I was growing up, you see on a lot of these shows, you see I don't know, I for lack of to oversimplify it, I'm going to be a bit reductive, right? But like the nerds and the jocks and what have you. And I didn't really want to be in one of these cliques. I wanted to be in all of them. I saw some beauty in each of them, sort of thing. And I remember a friend of mine had said, Shigei, you're such a floater, and I thought that was a bad thing. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I need to just kind of like fit, but like the shoe didn't fit all the way. And I was like, where do I fit in all of this? Where are my go-to set of friends? Like just static. And I just, like we talked about earlier, it just evolved. So yeah, I remember my younger years trying to fit in. And then I realized there was something more for me and I had to get out. So yeah, I went out to Michigan State University for undergrad. What was it, about 40,000 students? It was crazy. So you could meet a few people there. And then, as you know, I met you during business school. And that's where I felt like I was walking away from under my parents' roof and, making my own sort of way. And it was a lot of trial and error, you know, it was, because I remember I was like, oh, this is easy. There's these pre-made communities. They're called sororities, right?
Mm.
And there was different types of sororities. There was the predominantly white sororities, predominantly black sororities. I was raised in a predominantly white neighborhood, and you look at me, I'm black, right? And I am black. So I was just like, oh, maybe I belong in the black sororities. I went to rush both of them. I checked out both of them. It didn't feel natural for me, you know, and I didn't want to stick with just one. You can't put baby in a corner. You can't put baby in a corner. I wasn't a sorority sister. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't a nerd. I was Shigei, and it took me years to figure that out. You know, so and then like you said, you have that stillness. You figure out who you are, and then you attract the right people. That web we talked about earlier. So yeah.
Well, thank you for thanks for sharing that. You know, your very personal experience with that. You know, and I think a lot of people can identify with not fitting in these groups that form naturally, that form I think there's a lot of naturalness to how groups kind of come together, and I think there's a lot of intention, and I think there's a lot of like underlying structures that are not healthy that cause that as well. And what I heard in your story was that even at home, when you had people from the same part of the world as you, I didn't get a sense, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't get a sense that gave you a sense of community. Or
it did,
but I don't know. Maybe I was.
Yeah. But I felt like I wasn't. When I went to Eritrea and Ethiopia when I was a kid, they called me Ferenc. Ferenc means foreigner. So I'm like, but what do you mean? I thought this is home for me. This is my native land. Even though I'm born and raised in America. But yeah, I mean, I had a thick accent. I'd point at food and be like, what's that? What's that again? I just wasn't completely integrated in anything in a way. But I remember making an effort. Like I joined, do you remember Yahoo groups?
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember Yahoo groups?
I don't think I joined one. Did you try that out? You did that? Did you do that? Did you?
Yahoo groups. Yeah, there was one, and it was like Eritrean Americans or Ethiopian or Habesha. Habesha is another word to say Northeast African. And yeah, I joined it. And I was like, hey, first generation American, parents from Eritrea and Ethiopia. Hi guys. And yeah, I remember. Do you remember that? That's a blast from the past for me. But yeah, I was searching. I certainly was. And now I feel like I have people from just everywhere. And we can talk about that in terms of like my birthday.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is, this, wherever you want to take this conversation, I think it's just just honoring how difficult it is to find a place where you belong, right, is kind of, I think some of the message I'm hearing. And how, we talked before, right, about being clear with ourselves and honoring ourselves as part of that journey. But yeah, like you want to talk about your birthday, right? Because actually when you were talking about Yahoo groups, I was like, oh, you know what? Funny, fast forward to 2020, and that's how people need to connect, right?
Yeah.
Again, like you kind of have to like virtually also, meet people in new ways. But yeah, like what did you want to share about your birthday endeavor?
Well, the good thing about having you as a friend is that you always keep me honest. And I didn't know what I wanted for my birthday. And I remember sitting there and we had a live conversation. It was you and your partner at work, Margot. You were collabing with her. And was asked a question by you guys, because I was like, I don't know what I want. You know, it's the big 4-0. It's a big milestone birthday. I'm in the center of a pandemic. You know, I can't really see many people. And I was like, it's cool. I'm turning 40. I don't need a big celebration. In fact, I'm afraid I'm just gonna like sit in the corner and cry. You know, because it's just like where I thought I would be at 40 and where I am, what doesn't exactly align, sort of thing. And I remember talking to you guys about that. And then you guys just asked me a very practical question, which is, you know, what do you want? What do you want from your birthday? What do you want on your day? And I said, to feel loved. Do you remember that? To feel loved.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what that looked like at that very moment, but I had some advice, right? Margot said, oh, for my birthday, I did a Zoom dance party. And so I sat with that for a while, and it was a little like, not unorthodox, but not something I would have thought of. I'm like, oh, would my friends do it? I don't know if they'd show up. And then you even said to me, it doesn't matter about them. It's what you want, you know? And so I was like, all right, well, I want a dance party, you know? And so you sent out the invite, and it was a collection of people. I found it to be a collection of people that I connected with across the 40 years of my life. It was, you know, people that have been part of my journey. And it could have been through work. It could have been for a season, a reason, or a lifetime, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was, and I'm not just saying this, it was the best birthday I've ever had. And it was cheap. It wasn't like some expensive Michelin star restaurant or anything. It's all I wanted. It's all I wanted. So it was nice to see everybody together. And I don't think any two people really knew each other, right? Well, some did, but yeah, I mean, they're glue. They were part of my web, my tribe. So yeah.
You know, I think, you know, as we were talking about this, there's two things that come up for me. And the first is that, like, really, really getting at what is it that you desire, right? And which can be really hard for people to hone in on that and say, what do I really want? Because we're often discouraged from honoring what we actually want, or there's a lot of limiting beliefs about what's possible. But the second thing was that honoring how you want to do it. And then I just sensed some unattachment to, like, whatever it looked like. If one person showed up or not, I just got a sense that you were at peace with that, because you knew you were honoring, like, this is just what I want. Like, and whoever shows up, like, great, you know?
I let that shit go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and, you know, for those who are just joining, you know, we're talking about community today. And, you know, I think, you know, part of community is friendships, making new connections. And, you know, it just makes me think of, you know, sometimes we set these expectations about what something is going to look like.
Yeah.
And then that's where we kind of can get disappointed and feel lonely, because we take something personally when it's not. And I think as sensitive souls, which I think you and I kind of fall in that category of, like, easily hurt, easily, you know.
Yeah.
How have you navigated some of that kind of disappointment, like, as you know, because as you've traveled, as you tested out, you know, like you said, different groups, and where you kind of feel good? What's that journey been like?
Yeah, I think for me, it all starts with myself. You know, I said I want to feel loved, but I need to love myself first. The importance is loving myself first, like, to help cultivate those relationships that are positive and, you know, give me love. I need to fill my cup first. Otherwise, I just attract bozos and people that might be lost, or people that our values are not connected. So if I seek connections in a place of desperation, you know, I'm going to get, you know, I don't want to say desperate people, but, you know, people that are just might not illuminate my shine or help me illuminate my shine. So, so yeah, I think you exude, there's this energy that you exude and people are attracted to it. And you can filter out the ones that you're just like, not for me, not for me. And maybe there is people for you. And then as you evolve and grow, what you want in life changes, and you might need to be a bit ruthless and eliminate some of the dead weight, you know, people that don't support you, people that put you down. And I don't say that there's so many Instagram memes that say stuff like that, you know, but I think you can be ruthless, but be also, it might be someone having a really bad day and they just treated you poorly, you know, but if you're in a good place, you see that for what it is. And then you just, you know, you guys have a talk later that day or in a month or whatever about it. But yeah, I think for me, it's just spending a lot of time, meditation with this pandemic has been great. You know, I've been learning to spend a lot more time with myself and see what's important to me. And yeah.
Well, I want to go back to something you said, right, around loving yourself first, right? And that's a sentiment that is, you know, talked about a lot. And I think it's also a hard one to grasp. Certainly, I remember having a conversation with my coach, one of my coaches at one point, and I was like, I don't understand how self-love serves me. Like, help me understand, like, why this is important. Like, I literally was that resistant to this idea. And I'm curious if there was a moment or a situation where that landed for you, or, you know what I mean? Like, how did you come to that as like, oh shit, I actually need to look at myself and love all of who I am, like, in order to call in and attract the kind of community that you want, the kind of whatever it is, love / whatever relationship.
When did it hit me that I needed to love myself before others could? I don't know, Toss, that's a good question. Maybe this indirectly answers your question, but I remember during yoga teacher training, I didn't, context. Back in October of 2019, I started a 6-month yoga teacher training course. And so it was with other yogi practitioners. And my birthday fell in November. So a month had passed, and so this is last year. So we're having a common theme here, which is my birthday. But I had kept it a secret because I'd only known these people for a month. And I just remember saying, I don't want to disturb them. I don't know if this is really self-love directly, but it was just me not, you know, feeling like my presence and my birthday is important enough for them to celebrate with me, sort of thing. I'm like, oh no, like I was playing small. I was like, the intention of yoga teacher training is yoga. It's not my birthday, you know, but it is a lot about community, you know, as well. So I just remember being quiet that day, just listening, you know, writing furiously all the great content that the yoga teacher was telling us, and just being quiet that day. I was just very quiet, and it was my birthday, and then I remember that's right, there was a couple of people that had added me on Facebook. So, you know, on Facebook they tell on you, it's your birthday. So so Ian was his name, so if he ever watches this, hi Ian. But Ian had whispered to the teacher, it's Shigei's birthday today. And so it was like a full-on day of learning about, you know, all these different techniques and postures and Sanskrit, you know, words. And I was just overwhelmed with all that. And then at the end of it sounds like a cult. It's not. But we all sit down in a circle, you know, facing each other, but in a circle form, cross-legged, close our eyes, and repeat a mantra that the teacher leads. And as we were closing our eyes, the teacher had said, her name is Jess. Jess had said, there's somebody in this room that thinks that they're going to get away with not telling us that it's their birthday. And I was just like, and then she said, will that person please get up and sit in the center of the circle? And I was like, oh, I was just like startled. And then I remember, getting up, sitting down at the center of the circle, sitting cross-legged, and she had asked me which one was my favorite mantra, and it was a one about gratitude. And so she's like, great. And then she told everyone to reach with their dominant hand towards me. So all these hands, 12 hands are pointing towards me, and they closed their eyes, and we repeated this mantra, and this wave of emotion just came over me, and it was so special. And then afterwards, I was still vibrating, right? And I walked over to the teacher just to say thank you, and she said, you know, one thing you should know is that people, what did she say? I want to get it right. Something like, you should know that people have joy when they give joy, something like that, you know, like you give joy, that gives you joy, sort of thing. So I just remember thinking, and then when I walked out of that studio, they had like vegan cupcakes and, you know, all these like healthy vegetarian and vegan like desserts, and they wished me, you know, with the candle that I blew out and stuff, and I felt so special, and and I was so surprised by it. And someone had said, why are you so surprised? It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Like, it was just so, and so it just it hit me. It's just like, I'm worth it. I'm totally worth it. And I think leading up to that day, I just didn't want to, I was tiptoeing. Didn't want to bother anybody. Didn't want to interrupt the day. But I thought, oh gosh, you know. So maybe that had to do a bit with self-love. So that's what I was thinking about as an example, yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful story. And you know, certainly if that's what came up for you, and honoring that, you know, definitely feels like a very profound moment. And you know, definitely what you're saying like really resonates with me in terms of this idea of we make ourselves small, or we play small. And you know, I think my experience in that is when we know we can't get what we need by expressing our needs, then we make ourselves small. We either make our problems small, or we hide. We do go in the corner, or we don't show up, or it's self-protection because of a habit that we learned in order to survive, right? In order to protect ourselves from disappointment or what we couldn't get, you know? So I say this to say, you know, as a coach, certainly I see this kind of, right? This kind of behavior of, and I've had to, birthdays are always tough for me too. Like, and I remember one year I shut off that Facebook. I shut off the thing to say, don't tell anybody it's my birthday. And then I realized I felt like fucking crap by doing that. I was like, right, because it was like I was not allowing myself to receive love. And that didn't feel good. And so just that moment, like you said, of, oh man, I'm worth it, right? And that's something that's out there a lot too, right? You see that, oh, I'm worth it, you know, you're worthy, I'm worthy, you know, but there's like this really there's a deepness to that. And it's not easy to get to say, you know, based on our life experiences, sometimes we just, you know, we don't realize our own worth, and that just by breathing, we are worthy of all that life has to offer.
And it's uncomfortable too. It can be unsettling because, I mean, you and I share some friends, and, you know, I think they're looking to build their businesses. And, you know, one of the pieces of advice that you've given was, you know, just exposure and, you know, logging into Instagram, creating an account. And there's some resistance in that. You know, I don't want to tell their story or their journey, but I get it. I mean, when I post on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, what will people say? What if they disagree? You know, so it's just, yeah, you put yourself out there, and
Yeah, I mean, it just what you said in that just reminds me about your spirit. Like you have such an adventurous spirit, right? And like in so many respects, fear doesn't hold you back, you know? And I'm curious, like what role that like that adventurous part of you, like how has that served you actually in finding community? In addition to like the actual explorer in you, like that, you know, that you have traveled so much and you have climbed some of the most difficult mountains, you know. um yeah, I'm just curious with that, how you kind of perceive that about yourself.
I think it makes things easier for me to meet people. I remember when I moved here, I was talking to this one woman named Nadine. So if Nadine ever sees this, hi Nadine. But I was telling her, I was like, I'm having trouble just like settling in here, and I want to make this place home, and I don't know how to make friends as an adult, you know. And but I am adventurous, you know. But so she says to me, use that adventure, use it. You like hiking? Is there hiking groups out there? You like cycling? Join a cycle group. You know, use the things that are your hobbies to meet new people. So rock climbing, indoor rock climbing, they have that here in London. And I thought that was such a great and active and healthy, you know, things that I'm interested in. I can meet people through those sort of things. I still talk to people. I remember, what was it, year 2011, Mount Kilimanjaro. You talked about mountains. So I trekked Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the tallest freestanding mountain, and tallest mountain in Africa. And it was 10 days of trekking. And I remember on the 10th day, we reached Uhuru Peak, and then we walked down. And I mean, geez, mind you, we hadn't showered, right? We hadn't showered. We were caked in dirt and sweat. And, you know, I remember my legs, my knees were looking up at me like, why'd you do this to me? What did I do to you? You know, greasy hair, muscles fatigued, aching back from carrying my backpack, even though the porters did most of the heavy lifting, you know? And I remember and these are people I don't know, so I didn't mention that part. So they are people that worked at Accenture, but from around the world. And I remember I was the only person from the New York office. And we just kind of discarded all of the niceties over the days, you know what I mean? We just were real. We were real. And I remember there was a bus waiting for us in Tanzania to take us to our hotel. And Tosca, that was one of the happiest moments of my life. Like, I mean, those people, men and women, had seen me squat and pee like on the side of the trail, you know. You know, it was so humbling too. I mean, we were donning like the most expensive gear, Patagonia, whatever. I'm not doing brand marketing right now, but and these porters would run past us with open-toed sandals and just running past us, you know. And I'm like we were just, and it's just, I don't know, it just got us to that most basic element of like human needs, you know, water, rest, and all that stuff, and what is really important. And community is one of them. And I remember sitting on that bus, and we just, I mean, a lot of people cried going up the mountain. People like hated, why did I make the decision to do this? And so, yeah, sitting there almost 10 years ago, I remember thinking to myself, I'm so happy. And I smelled, and I was dirty, and I was like, but it wasn't that, I mean, yeah, okay, it was a combination of a sense of achievement, I'm not gonna lie, but it was also like sharing that struggle of the journey with others. And then we just sat there, we went through some of the photos, but we mostly talked, we were just present. We just talked about the views. And so, yeah, I think for me, to answer your question, the adventurous spirit has been a gateway for me to meet people from around the world. The only thing that is, I don't know if you call it a limitation, but the only thing about that is I make friends around the world. So I don't think community is a physical set of people that like live next door in your like local zip code. It's just, it could be spread out, but it can be a limitation in the sense that sometimes you just want to like, have 5 people of your closest friends over for dinner. But with my adventurous spirit, I have a best friend in New York that I'm staring at right now, like can't invite you over tonight. So that's the only sort of detriment to it, or but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, and that element, really makes me think of what your experience for your 40th celebration this year, right? Which was you had this immense sense of community, even though it was in a virtual setting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think sometimes if we hold space for what's possible for having that sense, even if it's not physical, like that's, I think just being open, you were open to that. You were open to like, maybe this could be great. And you got yourself excited, which I think is really part of the process too, which is like, yeah, if you think you're going to have a shitty holiday season because you can't physically be with other people, then, you kind of, you manifest that, or versus if you think, gee, I don't know what's possible, but let me tell you what I would like. This is what I would like to feel and what I would like to experience. And then that's what you attract. And then I think things can be surprising in that way. The magic kind of happens.
The magic, yeah.
But one of the things I did want to pull out that you talked about, which is so in line with a lot of, the coaching that I do, which is like, really honoring and leveraging your superpowers as part of how you live your life, how you move through the world. And like what I heard you say, right, is you're like, oh, you leverage your adventurous spirit in the realm of creating community, which was really important to you.
What did I do? Am I darker now? Do you see that?
You're a little darker.
There you go.
There you go. But yeah, I just, that whole concept of, the superpowers that you have in building relationship and being able to be aware of it and honor that and use that, because sometimes it doesn't look like what society encourages, right? In terms of like the charisma side of it and the extrovertedness and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But really being able to own and honor and say, this is what I bring, and that's how I'm going to build community with this particular skill set. So I'm curious if you had to like reflecting on what is it that enables you to connect with others? Because like you said, you started this conversation with, well, I kind of didn't fit into this group. I kind of didn't like squarely fit into this group. So what was it in who you are and your personality that allowed you to find your way in all of those groups, the geeks, the whatever, like you were saying, the nerds, the whatever, the cool cats? What do you think enables you to make that connection? Because I see you as someone that just, it's so natural for you.
Someone always would say to me, I used to work with him, he said, Shigei has never met a stranger. I think for me, it's a blessing and a curse, but I'm not afraid to be vulnerable, outwardly, and just be real, I think that helps. We had a call last week, and it was about how the experience of someone who's in a leadership position at PwC, the company I work for, and being a mother and having this leadership role, and what's that like. And so she shared her experience, and I'm sitting there 40 thinking, well, I want a family, but I don't know what my options are, and I don't know. I'm open to the traditional way, you know? And so I raised my hand, literally, there's a like raise hand button. And the host had asked, you know, Shigei, do you have a question? And I said, yes, I just was interested to know if you were familiar with any resources out there for someone that's looking at the non-conventional ways, you know. So if I had to be more explicit, like adoption, IVF, you know, sperm banks, things like that. And you could have heard a pin drop. It was quiet for a while. And then there was a chorus of people, you know, other people had similar sort of experiences. And then I had people message me after saying, I don't even think it's brave. One person said, oh, you're so brave. I think brave to me is like jumping out of a plane, you know, or being the president. Like, that's brave. But to speak your truth, to be honest with where you are, that's just been a natural thing for me. So, and from there, I was able to draw connections naturally with people that were kind of going through the same sort of journey, you know, like looking into having a family later in life. So, yeah. So to answer your question, I think it's vulnerability and just heart on my sleeve.
Just hashtag Brene Brown right now. Like, I feel like it's so beautiful. It's awesome. Like, I just, you know, it's funny because often, it's, again, with the work that I do and in my own self-discovery, like that the things that are natural to us, right? It becomes harder to see how special that is because other people don't have those same dispositions, those same, you know, approach, skill sets or superpowers. And I just so honor like anyone, right, who's willing to ask the tough questions, ask the real questions, especially in corporate environments where there's a whole other host of shit going on. But you know, because there's so much shaming and there's so much like, right, taboo, and there's like, oh, we don't talk about this, or we don't, you know, or like that, you know, I think we're in this new era of authenticity in work environments, which as you know, I'm really passionate about. But yeah, like
you coached about this before it was even cool.
Oh,
authenticity, bring your true self to work. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think that's part of my journey, right? Is my sole purpose, I think, is honoring myself and honoring what makes me unique and different, and shedding the shame that I experienced in that, you know, for much of my life. Whether that was appearances, whether that was being outgoing or being a cheerleader, all those elements of myself that, you know, weren't always encouraged, but that are my superpowers. So thank you for that, and
for sharing my fertility story.
Well, all of it, all this whole conversation is beautiful, and I think that, I mean, I'd be curious if you want to talk about this, but community and workplace, like, do you think there's a place for community in the workplace? I mean, it just sounds like, even from you asking an honest question about what was real for you and what you really wanted to know, it sounded like you attracted people just in that. But I'm curious, what does community mean for you in the realm of work?
Great question. So my first year in London, I felt like, so I underestimated the move. I thought, okay, I'm moving from one English speaking country to another. Like, what's the big deal? But no, it was I don't know if it was a culture shock, but it was a shock in many ways. You know, lots of news, new home, new city, new company, new job, new role in the company, new people, and even, new culture in a way. You know, there's different mannerisms and stuff, nuances. And so the first year was a bit tough. Honestly, it was tough. And I was like, I don't get this. This is my dream. You know, I've always wanted to live in London. So why is this so tough? I think what that year, now that I reflect, because now it's been 2.5 years, what I've learned is I now have a greater appreciation on the fact that it takes time. You know, it does take time to build that trust with people. It doesn't necessarily, sometimes it, you know, it can happen overnight. It's like, you want to be best friends, you know, but to build that trust, it takes time. And now that I'm 2.5 years in, I feel more rooted. And I think part of that was because I think after a year, I just gave up. I'm just trying so hard, you know, and I just did exactly what that woman had told me to do. She's like, you know, invest in the pockets that you want to, that you're interested in, whether it be cycling, whether it be indoor rock climbing, whether it be hiking. I joined a London hiking group, you know, made a friend through that. I joined a book club, a virtual book club, made a friend through that. So I was just like, you know what? So, I mean, that's not work, people, right? But I think for me, I just did the things at work that I enjoyed doing. And then the people we just gravitated naturally. So I just released that sort of control of just trying to just make things happen. Like, oh, I'll separate, you know, and just let it just come and unfold the way it should. So, yeah.
Yeah, like that whole concept of forcing and the overdoing to get what you're looking for. And because you may not find it in the places that you want or think you should find it, or, you know, sometimes we can't find community in our own family. You know, sometimes that's just not where we're going to find it. And so, you know, how else do we, you know, get what we need? And I think it's interesting, like this topic is really fascinating to me because I think, right, there was this, how it used to be, and still kind of is to an extent, right? It's like you got your personal life is separate from your
Yeah.
business life, right? Now, in today's age, that is not the case. And I think what happens is that the people that compartmentalize, they don't really open up. They're not really vulnerable. They're not really showing who they are at work. I think that's part of what creates toxic cultures, because it's like we're not showing up with who we are. We're not interested in really seeing the other people. And then how do you create a team, let alone community? You know, when we shut off parts of ourselves in order to serve that culture. I don't know, like, because it seems like what an opportunity to have community in an environment where you're there 8 hours a day or more.
I was going to say that too. I was going to say that after that 1 year, I stopped looking for that level of connection at work as well. And I did. And then that's why I was talking about the London hiking group and such, the yoga teacher training, you know, that I wanted, what's the word? I think I just wanted, I wanted a more well-rounded experience here, you know, and not be live and breathe work.
Well, it makes me think of like, right, because it's kind of like this notion of like one person in your life can't serve all your needs, right? Like whether it's your friend can't serve all your needs, your husband or your spouse can't serve all your needs. And so, yeah, if we keep going to that same well and it's like, well, they can't do this for you, or that's not where it's like acknowledging that. It's what I'm hearing, like acknowledging, oh, maybe like my actual tribe, like my soul tribe isn't in these walls, and that's okay. And let me make it easier on myself, I guess, is what I'm hearing. Like, oh, right, you have other interests and ways to pursue what you need. Yeah.
If I had to give advice from my experience, it would be, one, you mentioned adventurous. Yeah, be adventurous, be open, like peel yourself away from your phone, look up. You know, even today, I remember waving at the guy that stopped. You know, there was a pedestrian walkway, and I just like said, it was a thank you, and he just lit up, and he like wave back. And it's just give people eye contact, and I think people should take advantage of those like social gateways, like, Facebook groups, meetups, Eventbrite, virtual groups. But yeah, I do think that we need to be a bit proactive in terms of to find your tribe and cultivating it. You need to get out there, back to the exposure comment. And then also I would say be open, but obviously be true to yourself. So if you're not a very vulnerable person or open, fine. But we do need to like kind of, share our truth. And be inclusive would be my third one. Be receptive to people that don't look like you, that don't speak like you, that, just be open to new connections wherever they come, and no matter what that looks like as well. So that's what I would say in my 40 years of life.
I think that's really awesome counsel, and the thing that, first of all, I'm very passionate about what you're saying about inclusivity and and suspending judgment. There's a difference between acknowledging, oh, that person isn't for you, and actually giving something a chance. Because when somebody is different from you, it may take more than one exposure or one interaction to see where the ties are that bind. And I think sometimes the detriment is we can be really quick to put people in boxes and put people on labels and judge, versus really getting deeper at where is there a possible authentic connection. So I love that. And that's like, oh my God, we could do a whole talk on inclusivity. But the other thing I want to add to that is also, what stories are we telling ourselves about our ability to connect and find our tribe and our people? Because I know that those old stories that are likely not serving us, are putting out an energy, and again, that self-fulfilling idea. And I'm curious if that was just, I know we're coming to a close here, but was there a story you were telling yourself in that process of seeking belonging, of seeking community throughout your life? Was there a story that you had to break free from or change?
That difference is good. That being different is good. I felt I spent so much of my younger years trying to fit in. I'd go to school smelling like various spices, and I hated it, because what is that Yankee Candle cotton? Everyone else smelled like that, or like detergent, it's just like, I hate you.
I hate that smell, by the way. I do not like the detergent smell. But anyway,
well, you smell so clean, and I smell like I just left the kitchen. I smelled like onions, and gosh, now it's a thing. Everyone wants to be different, right? But it was just, for me, it took, God, yeah, I was trying to fit something else. This is wash and go. No products or anything. This is my natural hair.
I hate you for that. Wash and go like that. My God, I love it. It's beautiful.
But yeah, there wasn't a lot of people that have hair like this, in board meetings, or in meetings. So it was just, for me, it's just embracing that, embracing the different colors that everyone brings to the table. So, and dropping my phone, seeing that as like you said, a superpower.
Yeah. I love that. Shigei, you're beautiful. I'm so just honored that we're friends, that we've grown together, and our bond has strengthened over all these years. And I just really appreciate you being so open and transparent about your experience with belonging. And I think there's so many people I think that need to hear these messages to know like, hey, it's not just you. That so we all, right, our thirst for human connection is ubiquitous and universal.
Mm.
And I think everybody struggles with it in some way, shape, or form, you know. And I just appreciate your counsel, your advice, your stories,
Mm.
and I look forward to um, yeah, like how your community expands as you continue your adventures in this world. It's so inspiring that you all the risks that you're willing to take for living life fully. It's just so beautiful, and such a reminder to not lead with fear, but to lead with the values that serve you, the values that are really true. So.
Well, Tosca, you have front row seats to my journey. You have front row seats to seeing where this takes me, this life. And I hope I do as well for you. But no, thank you for sharing your platform with me about a topic that I find that I'm very passionate about, which I find, very, very important. And with COVID and this pandemic, I think, we can't take community for granted. And it just really shows how important it is. And I'm glad you allowed me to share that with everyone. So thank you.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. And like for anybody watching now or in the future, if you need more support, more counsel about where to find community, how to go about it, if you're feeling stuck, please like reach out. You can certainly reach out to me. I'm happy to be a resource. Yeah, we're all in this together. So, uh, yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in the new year. Uh, that will be the next Talk About It Tuesday in January. And Shigei, thanks for your time, for your energy in this conversation. And yeah, any final thoughts to close out?
Mm. Mm. No, all I can think of is like the immediate, around the corner is the holidays, is this Christmas and New Year's. And though you might not be able to see, touch, visit the people that you love, um, there there are other ways. You asked me questions like, what do you desire, what's your intention. If your intention is to have that connection, it can be like this: a FaceTime conversation, a WhatsApp. It could be cooking in the kitchen virtually together. There's games you can play, but I hope everyone finds a way to connect during such an important time of the year, my favorite time of the year. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Yes. Agreed. And I will be working with you. I'm figuring some of those things out for sure.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too, girl. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon, my friends.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Ciao for now.